BLUF Gaming here with a quick video showing the different wall types and belt organization structures available in Satisfactory. Two quick caveats. One is that I'll be covering splitters and mergers in a separate video, and the other is that this video only covers the first 4 tiers of structures available in the game, as I haven't yet had access to tiers 5 and above. First off, let's look at the stackable conveyor pole. As you can see, the stackable conveyor pole allows you to have 2 levels of conveyors traveling above one another. Here I've looped a conveyor belt back beneath itself, but the true purpose of this structure is to allow different belts to travel along the same path. Next, we have a couple of walls that have doors in them. As you can see, you have walls down here at the bottom, one wall door right, wall door left, and wall door center. There are also black ones that are only different in color, not in function, and they're intended to let you walk through them. However, belts can also travel through these doors. Unfortunately, it looks like the devs haven't gotten the hitboxes right yet, and you can just pass belts right through these door walls however you like. You cannot do this with regular walls, but these just seem to be completely passable by conveyors. Next up, we have the perpendicular wall conveyors. The perpendicular wall conveyors come in orange or black and have these slots that a belt can travel through. Normally you could just have a belt traveling right alongside it, but you may want to have belts going at a much greater height than a pole allows, and what I've done here is I've gotten a half-height foundation so that I could offset the height of these walls on the left and loop them around like they are now. Although it's more likely you'll find use with these perpendicular wall conveyors when using them to mount conveyors at a greater height than a pole normally lets you. Of course, you also have the regular conveyor poles, which you get the same time that you get regular conveyor belts. These are frequently automatically placed whenever you're placing conveyors. However, you can place them by themselves so that you can rotate them how you like, or so that you can click and raise the height just by lifting your mouse before clicking again. They can go up to 4 levels high. No, they can't go a 5th level. If you want to go higher than a 5th level, you're going to have to mount it to something like the walls we were looking at earlier. If you put these conveyor poles in the ground rather than on a foundation, you have a much greater control over the angle that they can be turned at. However, I much prefer to build on foundations because it's much easier to organize my factory. There are also different wall types that have conveyor ports in them. You can see they come with 1, 2, or 3 ports in them, and again they come in orange or black. These walls with conveyor slots in them are very handy, especially if you're compartmentalizing the functions of your base. I don't know why you would want to do a U-turn, but you can do a U-turn from the outer 2 of a 3 or a 2 wall, but you can't go from one of the outers to the center. You might, however, like to do this organization where you go from outer to outer, because you could be connecting 2 similar compartments and sharing resources. If you want to go from a lower wall to an upper wall, you have to go from an outer to an outer. Otherwise you can't turn around fast enough unless you use a pole like this one to bring it further out first. Then you can go from an outer to a center, and if you want to make a tighter turn, you'll have to be even more creative with the poles. Finally, we have this wall type that just has a big hole in it that any belt or people or even your tractor can fit through. And lastly, you have regular walls through which nothing can pass. One other thing I'd like to show you are the Mk2 Biltz. As you can see, they travel much faster than the regular belts. You'll probably first want to use these wherever you're making screws in a constructor, as a regular belt is not fast enough to pull all the screws out of a constructor as fast as they're being made. Later in the game, of course, especially when you're merging multiple belts together, you will have a need for these faster belts so that you can get a higher throughput. This wasn't intended to be much of a tutorial, just more of an illustration for those of you who want to go ahead and start planning your factories or thinking about the new types of things you can do in Satisfactory that maybe weren't possible in Factorio because of the limited 2-dimensional perspective. Like I said earlier, there are splitters and mergers, but if you saw my Factorio series, you know there's a lot to cover with those, so I'll be doing those in a separate video. That's your bottom line up front. I hope you found this useful. Feel free to like or comment and let me know, and subscribe if you'd like to see my future videos. Of course, you can dislike as well, but if you dislike, I'll jump into your game and multiplayer and mix together multiple belts with different products on them to mess up your entire production line. That's all for now, engineers, and don't forget, be effective.